I look?
Lovely, except you forgot the mustache.
Do you remember when you were dropped into a German prisoner of war, POW camp, where the prisoners were actually the ones running the place, and the Nazis were basically just the punchline for the jokes? That was Hogan's Heroes, the classic sitcom that turned Stalag 13 into the most insecure prisoner camp in history for 6 straight seasons. But behind those laughs lie secrets you might not know. Did you know the Nazi officers in the show were actually Jewish survivors of the Holocaust in real life? The Stalag 13 set was blown to smithereens right after the final episode, and there is a mystery about a leather jacket shared with a music legend. Let's go back in time to discover the top 15 darkest facts about Hogan's Heroes. 15. Robert Clary, a real-life Holocaust survivor. Did you know the man we loved for his radiant smile and the cheerful singing voice of Corporal LeBeau was actually a survivor of hell on Earth? Robert Clary was captured when he was only 16 years old. He was sent to 2 horrific concentration camps, Buchenwald and Auschwitz. On his left arm, the prisoner number A5714 remained deeply etched, never fading with time. In a family of 14 children, only 3 survived the genocide. His parents and most of his siblings perished in the gas chambers of Auschwitz. Yet, just over 20 years later, Robert Clary stood before the camera, wearing a prisoner's uniform, laughing, singing cheerful songs, and mocking the very people who had murdered his family. He didn't laugh to forget. He laughed to win. He laughed to tell the world that no matter how cruel the darkness, the human spirit and hope can still shine through. That is the most beautiful and moving spirit of Hogan's Heroes. 14. 4 German officers were Jewish refugees. Can you even imagine it? The men wearing Nazi uniforms, acting authoritative, and shouting commands in Hogan's Heroes were actually Jewish souls who had escaped Hitler's ovens? Werner Klemperer, Colonel Klink, John Banner, Sergeant Schultz, Leon Askin, General Burkhalter, and Robert Clary, Corporal LeBeau, all were Jewish. They lost their homes, their countries, and some lost their entire families in the Holocaust. They chose to don the uniform of the enemy to turn the Nazis who once sowed terror into ridiculous, stupid, and pathetic clowns. Werner Klemperer only accepted the role of Klink on one condition: my character must never be smart or successful. It wasn't just a role, it was his way of using laughter to cry, to seek revenge, and to heal the deep wounds in his heart. Every time you watch, you'll realize those laughs aren't just simple humor. They are a moving reminder of human strength against the darkness of history. 13. Bob Crane married his co-star right on the set. This is one of the most romantic and nostalgic moments in the history of Hogan's Heroes. Amidst the harsh POW setting of Stalag 13, real love blossomed. Bob Crane, Colonel Hogan, fell in love with Sigrid Valdis, who played the beautiful Hilda, Colonel Klink's secretary. Instead of holding a wedding in a church or a luxury hotel, the two chose a very special location, right on the Stalag 13 soundstage. On October 16, 1970, Bob Crane and Sigrid Valdis held a real wedding ceremony in front of the entire cast and crew, the people who had fought together through 6 seasons. The image of the groom in a suit standing next to his beautiful bride right under a Nazi guard tower among the familiar barracks became one of the most memorable and romantic weddings in Hollywood at the time. It was a beautiful moment when real love transcended the script, blooming in the middle of a simulated war zone. 12. The show was banned in Germany for over 25 years. In a complete paradox, the sitcom set in a Nazi POW camp was completely banned from broadcasting in Germany for over 25 years. Since its debut in 1965, the German government considered Hogan's Heroes sensitive and refused to air it, fearing that turning Nazis into a joke would offend the national memory. It wasn't until the early 90s, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, that the show officially aired there. And something unexpected happened. Instead of being outraged, the Germans loved it passionately. The show quickly became a cult phenomenon. Many German viewers saw it as a way to demystify the Nazi image, turning fear into laughter. A truly surprising, nostalgic story about the power of humor. 11. Stalag 13 was actually blown up in a horror movie. After Hogan's Heroes ended in 1971, the legendary Stalag 13 set, which had witnessed so much laughter, ingenious sabotage plans, and countless memories of the cast, was not dismantled peacefully. In 1974, just 3 years later, the entire camp, including the wooden barracks, guard towers, and the gate, was destroyed using real explosives. The crew of the horror movie Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, borrowed the intact set and blew it up, burning everything for a grand scene of destruction. The wooden huts where Colonel Hogan and his team planned their missions, where Schultz said, "I know nothing," turned to ash in the fierce flames. A tragic and paradoxical end. The place that gave birth to the greatest laughter of the 60s was incinerated in a brutal horror film. Many later viewers felt a sense of loss, as if watching a piece of their childhood memories burn before their eyes. 10. The show was almost sued for plagiarizing Stalag 17. A little-known fact that might startle many fans. Hogan's Heroes almost never existed because of plagiarism allegations. In 1967, the writers of the classic film Stalag 17, 1953, directed by Billy Wilder, filed a lawsuit against CBS. They claimed Hogan's Heroes took too many ideas from their work. The trial initially leaned toward the plaintiffs, and the situation was extremely tense. However, the judge ultimately dismissed the case for a key reason. One was a serious drama about war prisoners, while the other was a satirical comedy. Two completely different genres. Because of this, Hogan's Heroes was able to survive and become a legend. A lawsuit that almost changed the history of American sitcoms. 9. Hogan's leather jacket once belonged to Frank Sinatra. Did you know that the most iconic leather jacket of Colonel Hogan, which Bob Crane wore throughout the 6 seasons, once sat on the shoulders of a legend? That leather jacket previously belonged to Frank Sinatra. He wore it in the famous war film Von Ryan's Express, 1965. Moving from the role of the King of Swing to the cunning Colonel Hogan, the leather jacket passed through 2 of the greatest entertainment icons of the 20th century. After Hogan's Heroes ended, this legendary prop continued its journey. It was sold at auction for a high price and is currently on display at an aviation museum in the US. Every time Hogan steps out in that leather jacket, you are witnessing a silent piece of moving Hollywood history. 8. Larry Hovis adamantly refused to take off his wedding ring. This is a small but extremely sweet and admirable story about loyalty behind the scenes. Even though the character of Sergeant Carter, played by Larry Hovis, was a fun-loving, single soldier with no wife or children, Larry Hovis in real life refused to take off his actual wedding ring. Throughout the 6 seasons, the production crew had to use various tricks to hide it, making him wear gloves constantly, even indoors, forcing him to hide his left hand behind his back, putting it in his pocket, or using clever camera angles. Occasionally, sharp-eyed viewers can still catch a glimpse of the wedding ring flashing in a few frames. It is sweet proof that amidst the fake war setting, Larry Hovis's real-life love was always present, impossible to hide. 7. Bob Crane needed the approval of veterans. Before accepting the role of Colonel Hogan, Bob Crane did something very special that few would expect. Concerned that turning a war prisoner camp into a comedy would be disrespectful to those who actually lived through World War II, Bob Crane requested that the crew send the pilot to veterans organizations for a preview. He waited nervously for a response. However, the feedback was the complete opposite of his initial fears. The veterans not only agreed, but supported it enthusiastically. They shared that humor was exactly what helped them survive those years of hell. That respect and spirit helped Bob Crane feel at peace entering his legendary role. 6. It was always winter, despite filming in the California heat. Although the entire story of Hogan's Heroes takes place during the freezing German winter with white snow everywhere, the show was filmed in the sweltering heat of Southern California, where temperatures often reached 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, 95 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Actors had to wear thick uniforms and heavy coats, pretending to shiver from the cold while sweating profusely. To create the snow, the crew initially used salt, later switching to white paint to save costs. The image of Colonel Hogan and his teammates shivering in the scorching sun is one of the funniest and most grueling behind-the-scenes paradoxes of the show. 5. Werner Klemperer, a talented violinist. You will be extremely surprised to know this. The man we are familiar with as the clumsy, arrogant Colonel Klink, who plays the violin terribly on the show, was actually a truly talented musician. Werner Klemperer was the son of Otto Klemperer, one of the greatest conductors of the 20th century. Werner himself was classically trained in violin and piano from a young age, and was skilled enough to perform professionally. However, in the show, he intentionally played the violin out of tune and ear-piercingly to create laughter. This bad acting was both an inside joke and a way for him to use self-deprecation to step out from the giant shadow of his legendary father. 4. A victim of the famous rural purge. Did you know Hogan's Heroes ended in a rather unfortunate way? In 1971, despite still having stable ratings and millions of fans, the show was suddenly canceled by CBS. The reason wasn't a drop in quality, but a major sweep in American television history called the Rural Purge. CBS wanted to rejuvenate its audience, focusing on young urban demographics to attract advertisers. Shows considered to be for older rural audiences, like Hogan's Heroes, became victims. A rather abrupt end for a legendary series just because of the wrong target audience. 3. Ivan Dixon, Kinch, left the show to become a director. An interesting and admirable fact from behind the scenes. Ivan Dixon, who played Kinchlow, the smart and calm communications expert, actively left Hogan's Heroes after the 5th season. The reason? He wanted to pursue his passion for directing. Later, Ivan Dixon became one of the first black directors to work regularly for major American television networks, helping to break racial barriers behind the scenes. From a talented actor, he quietly continued writing his story through a creative role behind the camera. 2. The theme song has lyrics that audiences never heard. Have you ever noticed the upbeat, powerful theme music at the beginning of every Hogan's Heroes episode? Few people know that the march actually has full lyrics. The vocal version carries a heroic spirit, praising brave soldiers. The main cast members, Richard Dawson, Robert Clary, Ivan Dixon, Larry Hovis, recorded a joint album titled Hogan's Heroes Sing. Notably, Bob Crane, who played Hogan, was the talented drummer who played the famous opening drum beat of the track. A nostalgic musical detail that most viewers missed. 1. Richard Dawson almost played Hogan but was rejected for his British accent. A dramatic and interesting casting story. Richard Dawson, who later played Newkirk, was originally auditioned for the lead role of Colonel Hogan. However, he was rejected immediately because he couldn't speak with a standard American accent. His distinctive British accent was too obvious. Instead of being disappointed, Dawson accepted a supporting role and turned a weakness into a strength. Newkirk became the character specialized in mimicry, forgery, and being an expert con artist. From nearly being rejected to becoming one of the most beloved characters in the series. What a fantastic behind-the-scenes twist. And those are the top 15 most fascinating and surprising facts about Hogan's Heroes, one of the greatest and most unique sitcoms in television history. Hogan's Heroes isn't just a comedy. It is living proof that laughter can be the strongest weapon for humans to face and defeat the darkness of history. No matter how brutal the war, the undying spirit and intelligence of mankind always shine through. Nearly 60 years have passed, but the laughter from Stalag 13 still echoes, making us both laugh and reflect. That is the miraculous vitality of Hogan's Heroes. Which fact did you like most in that top 15? Please comment the rank number and your reason below. If you love interesting and emotional behind-the-scenes stories like this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episodes. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.